All right. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Comic Den, where we're talking Superman for all seasons. Definitely relevant of sorts with the new Superman movie that just came out. And so, let's delve into it after this intro.
Welcome to the Dingus Den.
All right. Well, happy Superman week, everybody, to everybody who's celebrating that and went out to go see it, or even go see it 2 times, as I know both me and you have gone to see it 2 times. So, because it was that much of an enjoyable movie for both of us.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of, be sure to tune in tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where I'm actually doing a panel review, hoping to get a good variety of opinions on the show for talking about that new Superman movie. So I'm going to be joined by Chris. I'm going to be joined from Andrew Haley, and then I'm also going to be joined by Ro from Scare Podcast, where we're all going to be talking about Superman and pros and cons of it, and we're going to be delving deep into it tomorrow night in a big review. So be sure to check that out.
Nice.
So spoilers beware for that one. Is we're delving into the spoilers in that.
So. Yeah, so Blue, if you are watching this,
I told Blue about that.
Do not watch tomorrow's panel.
I told Blue about that. And Blue's like, I'm not good to know. I won't tune in. So, but come back and watch it after, because I know some people have had certain opinions, and I know at least one of the people on the panel was not necessarily a fan of it. So we'll there's a little bit of variety that we'll have there, which will be good.
Well, we're probably going to have a panel review for Kryptonite Chronicles as well, but I'm going to wait until after Blue has had a chance to see it.
Gotcha.
Because I want to try to get him in on that.
Very nice. But yeah, so be sure to tune into that. Also, while we're talking about promotion stuff, be sure to hit that like, subscribe button in case you haven't already. Liking always helps. And I am terrible about remembering to do that. But something else, another stream I'm doing 3 Dingus Den streams on YouTube within the span of a week, which is very rare. Usually it's just this one. And so, but anyway, me and speaking of Chris, who's my co-host on Shell Talk, we're actually going to be trying something new with Shell Talk, where we're actually going to be doing a live episode on Thursday, where we will be talking about, actually, we're breaking up into 2 parts because it's that big of an event, where we're going to be talking about the finale of the original Kevin Eastman and Laird comics of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles run, and that is called City at War. So big that we're breaking up into 2 live streams. So be sure to go tune into that on Thursday. I believe we set it at 5 p.m. Eastern. So go check that out. One other thing that I need to mention as well before we get too deep into the regularly scheduled programming is the wind outside has just picked up because of a storm. And so if anything happens to the stream, everybody knows why. So just a warning, putting it out there now. Fingers crossed everything's fine, but sometimes you never know, especially with when wind's involved, and who knows,
Yeah.
Also reminds me I should probably charge my phone in the case of if anything does happen. So anyway, let's get into the show. What have you been reading this last week?
Well, I've been reading a lot of Superman.
Understandable.
Strangely, I got my I got my pull list late. I didn't make it to the comic book shop until Friday. But strangely, I have not read anything on my pull list from last week yet.
You know what's funny is I've only read one on mine.
I will probably read. I'll probably read them all tonight, maybe. But yeah, I've been reading a lot of Superman. Of course, I reread Superman for All Seasons.
Of course,
naturally. I reread Up in the Sky by Tom King.
Is that worth a read?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
No. If you have not read Up in the Sky, you need to stop whatever you're doing. Well, no, wait until after the stream's over. You need to go read that book because you have to read that. You have to read that.
I'll give it a watch.
I read the Jeff Johns Brainiac.
Oh, I need to read that. I know we talked about that last week.
That one's good. And then I read quite a few reread in this case. Reread a lot of single issues just for whatever reason. I reread Superman number 75 because the next episode of Kryptonian Chronicles, we're going to be talking about that specific issue.
What is the significance of that one?
That is the death of Superman.
I see.
Yeah, that is the one where he actually bites it.
I see. A very iconic issue, to say the least.
And then I read Action Comics number 1000. The main significance of that is that it is the last regular series issue that Dan Jurgens wrote. And actually, he wasn't the only writer. There were actually a lot of stories in that one because it was a giant size. And then I read Action Comics number 1 from the New 52. And then also from New 52, Superman number 1. Because it had been a while since I read either one of those. I'm like, I don't remember much about these. I'm going to go back and read them.
Okay, yeah.
What about you?
Very nice. Let's see here. I, funny enough, read part 1 of a 2-part Superman story and haven't gotten around to part 2 yet. Of Superman, I think it's called Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Alan Moore, yeah.
Yes, which is one of the 4 big stories that influenced, or what DC credits as influence to this new Superman movie. And so I wanted to give that a read. And so I read the first part of it. I haven't gotten to the second half because I was... Let's see here. What have I read? I've read some like my random single issues that I've been trying to catch up on, or not catch up on, that like I bought a while ago from like the sales and stuff. So like I went through and read some of those fun stuff. But the main thing that's like an actual like series I've been reading and not just like one-offs of stuff is actually been in preparation for this week's Shell Talk. Is that So me and Chris have been covering all of the stuff, except for our last video. Everything else has been stuff done by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, like their main original Turtle stuff.
Yeah.
But after, there was a big period of time, though, where they didn't work on Turtle stuff at all before coming out with this finale. So we're not talking about all that stuff in between, various reasons, but I was like, I want to at least give all this stuff a read, or at least try to give as much of it as a read before we talk about it, so I can, like I said, just try to fit in reading it before, for, partially completionist sake of just reading whatever I can, because it fills in a lot of those missing issues between with reading these collections called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Classics. So I've read the first 3 of them, and I think it's like just 7 or 8 total to read before. I think it's 7 to read before that I need to get to. So that'll likely be what I get back to tonight, is reading the next volume of that, where there is some really weird turtle stuff involved. Like, really weird. Like, I'll say this. Unless you're like a Turtles completionist, you could probably skip over these. There's some bizarre stuff. So, yeah, I was trying to remember like what was happening. Like, there's one of them involved time travel, and like half the issue, or actually half the arc, it was an arc of like 3 issues, that involved like nothing with the Turtles, and instead this weird creature that traveled back in time, and it was a weird time travel story. There's a bunch of weird stuff in those. So unless you're like a diehard Turtles fan, like I've just been like deep diving to those older ones because of the Shaw Talk series and all that. I mean, I also like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are cool, and I have access to read them with one of my subscriptions that my family has. So I was like, sure, I'll give it a watch, or not watch it, or read, because why not?
Cool.
So,
very cool.
Gives me a good reason to. So yeah. I don't think there's really anything else other than, of course, Superman for All Seasons, of course, which I just reread between last night and this morning. So, but I think that's it. Let's talk about what's coming up. This week's pool. Before we get into that, what's up, Matthew in the chat? Saying wishing he could see Superman and Fantastic Four. If not, I'm thinking I'll likely also do a Fantastic Four panel review as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I know I'm seeing Fantastic Four Thursday night. I actually already have my tickets to go with a few friends. So
yeah, I've got my tickets for Thursday night as well.
I'm going to like a later showing than I usually do, but it's just because of timing of it and everything, Oddly enough, I'm going with a friend who wants to go to Cinemark because that's his main preference. So I was like, that's fine, because he has like the Cinemark rewards or whatever, and he doesn't want to go to their XD screen. But for whatever reason, the only time that they're playing Fantastic Four that night on their special XD screen, keep in mind they have like 2 of them, I'm pretty sure, is at it's like after 9 o'clock, like 9:05 or 9:15, something weird like that, 9:25, where it's like, point is though, it's after 9 o'clock and it's the only one on Thursday night for a big movie. I'm like, what? Okay, I don't understand why it's that late, but fine by me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping Fantastic Four is good. We will be talking about the Galactus trilogy next week, which I think is like the one must-read story before that movie. So I think it'll be nice to revisit it before the movie, and we'll see how the movie turns out. But anyway, we're talking about what's coming out this week. Let's get into it. Which begins with... Well, I'm starting to sing Superman. It's not Superman at all. First one that is on my pull is Spawn, issue 366, where, it's Spawn stuff. There's some crazy stuff happening right now, so I'm definitely curious as to what's going to be going on with it. Yeah. As far as stuff that's not shocking, or that will probably be shocking, is that this King Spawn issue will likely be the last one I cut off of Spawn stuff, as they just recently jumped up in price because of the, world stuff that's going on. And so because of that, I decided I'm going to be a lot more picky about which ones I get. So recently I actually cut off reading Gunslinger Spawn. I cut off reading one of the other series a bit ago, but this one I'm like, I wanted to finish up the story arc, and I think this might be the last issue of the story arc from how it looks like. So, and when I was doing my catch up a couple weeks ago of this, I was like, okay, I want to like at least finish this story arc. I'm invested enough to finish that story arc, but I think for reasons I'm gonna probably after this one, which I think is the last one, just drop it for now. Because then that's only going to leave me actually having mainline Spawn and one of their miniseries that's going on. Like, I'm being picky about which of their miniseries as well. I'm actually having 2, but the last one comes out in a couple weeks. And then it's just the other one that I actually talked about on the show after I read So,
Okay.
Invincible issue 3 of Invincible Universe Battle Beast. I picked up, not last time I went to the comic shop, but the time before, I picked up the first 2 issues of this, and it was fantastic. I was like, holy crap, this is great. And so I wanted to read. I can't wait for more of this. If you're an Invincible fan, you will love this. Actually catching up on Deadpool and Wolverine was awesome. I really enjoying this series and all the hints of what they're dropping of what to come later on.
Yeah.
After catching up on both Wolverine and this back-to-back, I think I actually like this series more than the mainline Wolverine. And so, much like I was actually talking about dropping Kingspawn after that story arc, I think I will... I think I'm going to drop Wolverine after the story arc as well, after the next couple of issues.
Does this series tie in to any of the mainline X books?
I don't know if it will, but without saying too much, there was a book that just actually hold on, I think I have it up somewhere here. This right here,
Okay.
which I was actually going to cover later, which is giving us a bunch of previews for what's coming up in the X-Men universe, is tied to all this huge event that they just announced. Given what this is going to be kind of about-ish, it might have some stuff to do with it, but at the same time, I wouldn't think so because it's not touted as one of the mainline books.
Okay.
So I want to say no, but there's a possibility. So it's kind of hard to say when you have Wolverine and is it 3 ongoing titles?
Yeah.
Plus whatever other miniseries, because there's like the Wolverines and Deadpool series and all that other stuff. And so, but yeah, this is actually one of the issues that's not on either of our polls, but it was one of the, I think 2 that I had pulled up of notable stuff coming up.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? When I go to the comic book shop to get my stuff, I may wind up getting it.
That's what happens, you know. They get you when you see the book on the shelf. Especially when you just see him right. There's something about, you know, just looking and seeing the book in front of you where you're like, screw it, I'll get it anyway.
Yeah.
It's a few extra bucks.
Well, I mean, that's what happened with that Thor comic. Is
yeah.
I don't even read Thor, and I was just like, hey, look.
See, last week we talked about that Superman Treasury Edition, which looked really cool. I saw it, and that's massive.
No, I did not pick it up because I'm like, that's going to take up way too much space.
I didn't think about it at the time because it was more of a price thing for me. But I looked at it and I picked it up and just peeked inside of it, and I was like, Jesus, this is big.
Yeah. But
you bring up a great point. I don't even think this would be. I think that's bigger than storing my thing with where I keep all my bigger size books because it's that big. You've just sold me on why I shouldn't buy that at all now. Anyway, I do have another Marvel title, and that is issue 2 of Imperial. I really liked issue 1, kind of like a space mystery-ish sort of deal going on. It does pick up on an aspect of Planet Hulk, which is really interesting, but it's also just a big, it ties into essentially all the cosmic Marvel stuff, as it involves all the big Marvel cosmic players, or factions, or however you want to say it, empires or whatever, all together.
Yeah.
We have the Sicarians is a big part of it, the Skrulls, the Kree, I think Jason, isn't that Star-Lord's father's name? He plays a big role in it.
So yeah.
And so if you're a fan of Marvel cosmic stuff, you'd like it. There's other people there as well, but it has a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. One that's on both of ours, Absolute Batman issue 10. I can't wait for this.
Oh yeah. That's gonna be good stuff.
Issue 9 was so freaking good.
Yeah.
This might be one of those things I think once the story arc is done, it might be worth talking about. You know, So we'll see.
Yeah.
Absolute Batman is killing it still.
Yeah.
One that's actually only on your list and last of our polls is Superman Unlimited.
Yeah.
Do you like the second issue?
Yeah.
Oh wait, I lied. This is on your list too. Batman and Robin, Jason Todd. I need to read that first one.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it.
Very nice.
I like where they're going with it. So yeah, I'm gonna keep reading that until
Very nice.
I have a reason not to.
Very nice. And then not on either of our poll lists, but because it's a number one that's coming out, and I wanted to bring it up anyway because I think it's a funny comic that they're coming out with. And I remember when I read the description for it at first, I was like, "Well, this is interesting," and that is Star Trek Red Shirts.
Oh dear God!
Hold on, let me pull up the description of this so we can. So I can read what it's actually about because I was trying to remember what it was, what the actual premise of this was. The start of an all new heart trending Star Trek 5-issue miniseries from Christopher Cantwell, where he actually writes a bit of stuff, and artist Megan Levins, featuring Starfleet's most intrepid and doomed crew members, Red Shirts, now finally getting their own story. Led by an experienced officer embedded on the snow-ridden planet Arconia 89, the crew of the USS Warren has a small window in which to pin down spies seeking to steal classified secrets and keep Starfleet data out of their nefarious hands. That they face threats not only from their faceless enemies, but the brutalizing elements of wildlife of a planet far from home. The Red Shirts' lives in Starfleet are on the line, and no one is safe. So yeah.
I don't know. Do they really need their own story?
I think it could be worth reading at least later on. Actually, this reminds me. Let me pull up something here really quick. For any digital readers and for anybody that also likes to support charities and whatnot, something that I have done in the past is you can buy. There's this place that will sell comic bundles occasionally or sometimes. It seems like they always have going on. But right now, they have. Let me share this as a thing right here. They have a big actual Star Trek bundle going on right now.
Oh wow!
93 Star Trek comics for $24, and it's a PDFs to all of these. And so Star Trek Defiant, which is actually written by the person writing all that, the one we were just talking about. But yeah, a bunch of stuff you can see. Star Trek Lower Decks, New Worlds, all of this main Star Trek series they can see, Star Trek Classics. So it ranges from both old and new stuff, Next Generation stuff. Mirror War, I remember being a big thing that was happening. Day of Blood, which I remember that being a big thing they're hyping up. So yeah, all of this Star Trek comics that you get for $24, and part of it goes to a charity. Oh, it actually supports Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Interesting.
Okay.
Not a place I've ever heard of, but interesting. But yeah, that's the new comics of the week that we were both looking forward to. And now let's delve into our new or our main topic, where I realized I actually didn't have my book right beside me, Dirk, but I was actually about to pull it up here for everybody to see. But just generally, Superman for All Seasons, it came out in 1998, which I didn't realize it was that old of a story. I thought it came out like a few years later. I thought it was, for whatever reason, I thought it was an early 2000s book, and I was wrong. No. But it's quite a big story, as a lot of people, I feel like, regard it as like one of the quintessential Superman stories. It's one of those must reads that people throw around a lot.
Oh yeah,
and it was. I can definitely see how there's a couple aspects of this that James Gunn took to put in his movie, because James Gunn, I I felt like the movie was a hodgepodge of a bunch of different stories.
Yeah.
This one I would say maybe might be the third biggest, but I could definitely see some inspiration. I'm not going to say a lot, but I'm going to say some from this. So, but I think what's important about this story is that it really highlights Superman character really well. It's a uniquely told story. In a way as well, I forgot that this story also begins with also like rehashing his origin as well. And so it's really, really good start.
Yeah, it's a pretty good story that's definitely needs to be on your list if you are looking at jumping back into some Superman.
Yeah. I remember the first time I read this, I was like, holy crap, this story is amazing. This is now my second favorite Superman story. And for whatever reason, I had this weird revelation. And that I don't know why I've never thought about this. Well, I could tell you why I've never thought about this. But the reason why it never clicked with me earlier is that literally yesterday in the theater, when rewatching Superman, I was thinking a lot about the comics I was inspired by. And then I realized why the movie just started clicking in place with me a little more, as to why I enjoyed it more. Actually, a lot more. Because I was then starting to specifically pinpoint, the characters I was taken from this comic I really like. And then also there's a bit of like story inspiration from another comic arc that I really like. I'm like, hold on. I felt like you got the characters nailed from like All-Star Superman. Where actually check out our review from that, which is like over 2 years at this point. So go check that out. But then the other comic that I feel like was probably even, I would argue, a bigger inspiration on the movie. And for whatever reason, I didn't necessarily think about this being a Superman story until I was thinking about it yesterday. And that's Kingdom Come. I feel like Kingdom Come is probably the biggest like influential story on the new Superman movie. And I never, like I said, for whatever reason, I just never thought about that being a Superman story because of it being an Elseworld story that has a big cast of characters, which the new movie has a big cast of characters. Yeah. And what those stories are about, it's the same general kind of story in a way. And so, yeah.
Okay.
So, but then I was also in the theater. I recognized too. Oh, Kingdom Come isn't like just a team up story, and as hard it is like a Superman story, much like this new movie. So that's why I don't know. It was a weird revelation. I, for whatever reason, never thought of that until yesterday. I think it's part of like how I
compartmentalize.
That's it. That's the word I can't say. Of things like that, because I've had something similar happen with me. Small little side tangent before we get into Superman. With when people would ask me about my favorite horror movie, I would like right off the bat say something like Scream or Halloween or something Stephen King, but then people, when they say Alien, I'm like, hold on. I love that movie too. That'd be my favorite, but I don't think of that as a horror movie because it's more of like a sci-fi movie. Although the first one you could argue is a little more of a horror movie than a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. It's kind of like a similar train of thought like that is why I never thought of Kingdom Come as a Superman story until yesterday. And I was like, hold on. And so, but anyway, just how my brain works. You probably don't want to be in my brain other than myself. So, anyway, Superman for all seasons, though. This is a great Superman story nonetheless. As I do think it's a great Superman story. One of the, for me, it's in the top 3, actually probably at number 3, after realizing, hold on, Kingdom Come's a Superman story, so that's actually probably my favorite of. Actually, that would be my favorite. Actually, now after this realization that, hold on, this is a Superman story, and part of the reason why it makes it great, I realized from watching the Superman movie as it has that same major plot point. And so, but Superman for All Seasons is actually written by one of my favorite writers, Jeff Loeb, who's written my favorite Batman story. Actually, my two favorite Batman stories.
Yeah.
But when I got to meet him a few months ago, I only told him how much I loved Long Halloween because that's one of my favorite ever DC stories. It's my favorite ever Batman story, and when he's my favorite hero, well, that ranks up pretty high in the grand scheme of things. So, but the same creative team of Batman, Long Halloween, worked on Superman for All Seasons. Jeff Loeb and the late Tim Sale, rest in peace, who departed about a few years ago. And so he gave some great artwork in this. And there's some things that stood out to me with this. There's one thing you mentioned last week that stood out to me about the writing of it, or about Jeff Loeb writing this.
Oh, yeah.
And that was something that stuck with me while just in general, it just stuck with me. Throughout the week, I was like,
I think I remember the conversation. Something about his understanding of characters.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that, so yeah, essentially what you were saying. Unless do you want to bring it up?
I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I don't know how articulate I can be this time. But the thing was, like, this is a guy who has written several different characters.
Yeah.
But you get a sense that this is a writer who, like, okay, let me put it this way. You've got some writers out there that can just nail Superman. They understand the character. They understand what he's about. And then you've got writers that understand Batman. Like, they get what he's about. And they're perfect writers for the Batman character. But very rarely are you going to see the two mix. That is, you're not going to find somebody who could do a really good Batman.
Yeah.
But like most it's like you're going to be able to do a really good Batman, not so much with Superman. And I've seen that with certain writers. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's some writers that can do Batman great, can't do Superman worth a lick.
Sure.
And then vice versa. Like, yeah, you can do Superman great. Not so sure about your Batman. But Jeff Loeb, as a writer, gets the essence of both of these characters. Like, at their core.
Yeah.
And that is why every time he touches something of one of these characters, they're just pure gold.
That's awesome. Yeah. Loeb is a very talented writer, and when you brought that up to me right after last week's stream, I was like, wow, I never thought about that of, somebody being able to send both characters. You have to think those characters, and I think it's one of the things that really makes DC unique, or more unique than Marvel. Not saying that there's not variety within the Marvel universe.
Right.
But
no, I get
one of the things about DC that stands out is I think they have a little more variety. And when you talk about comparing somebody that's very dark, grounded, and gritty generally versus somebody that's very, super's in the name, right? But very uplifting, big, what's the word I want to use? Like
inspiring.
Yeah, but not like the complete opposite of being grounded and gritty is what Superman is, and so you're writing for completely different characters,
right.
When you're going from one to another, and so I think just being able to understand both sides of the spectrum can be, I think you'd have to be a really talented writer to be able to do both, as I think it's fair to say that a bunch of writers just find a niche and they're really good at that niche,
Yeah.
Like look at James Gunn, for instance. I think that's a great example for
Yeah.
kind of having a niche.
Well,
you're just
and there's
diving really
also
into it.
writers that never should, like, there's a writer that did some incredible things at Marvel, never should have left Marvel, because everything they've
I
written
see what
since
you
they
see.
moved over to DC has been trash.
I think I know who you're talking about.
We won't mention any names.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know who
man.
you are.
You
You know who you are.
Oh, so
Go back to
scary.
Marvel.
Go back. It's funny because that person wrote a lot of great stuff for Marvel.
He did. Yeah, he did.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, yeah, 100%. So, but yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that makes the story awesome. One thing
Yeah.
that stood out to me as well is Tim Sale's art in this is also great.
Oh my gosh,
so good.
yeah. There's,
Look at that.
at the end of issue 1, there is this spread that, we actually used it for our thumbnail. That is probably one of the best pieces of art.
It's really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
there it is right there. And so
It's just so good.
for sure. Yeah, no, this is a great story. For sure. I found it unique. Something that still stands out to me about this issue, or not the issue in particular, but the series in general, much like actually, it's one of the reasons now that I think about it, because I remember this being a talking point when we did All-Star Superman, is how each issue kind of focuses on like a different aspect of Superman.
Mhm.
And it's one of those reasons why I think it makes it a really good character study.
Well, it's interesting because Loeb and Tim Sale did Long Halloween, which was divided into holidays. Like each chapter was a different holiday.
Yeah.
And then that was so popular that they got them to write a Superman story together.
And it got a sequel.
And it got and they got this this whole idea of the season. So they're kind of capitalizing on that idea of splitting it up into different. In this case, it's not holidays; it's just seasons.
Right. I like that.
Yeah, and I like how each season you get a different narrator, so a different person's perspective on the same person.
And I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of into that character study aspect that's really neat about it, I think. Yeah, because you first get it's Paul Kent, then Lois, then you get Lex, and then Lana Lang.
Yeah.
And so it's a cool variety of characters, and also serves as like, you get to see the Superman's journey, too, because in issue 2, when you reach Clark getting there, it's like when he's like brand new there, or just got there, and so Lois's narration is like, who the heck is this Clark guy? And so it's funny. So, but yeah, it definitely works very well. And so I did definitely liked how each character's narration provided a different layer. Having such a big focus on Paul Kent in this story, I thought was absolutely fantastic. You have lots of great. Why did it back up? You have lots of great art throughout this. I'm trying to get through it, but yeah, look at this spread too. This is such a great spread too. Like some of the pages in this is just one great spread after another. And this is, really cool to have a contrast between the two, which I really like. So yeah, there's just a lot of great stuff with this story. Is there an issue that stood out the most to you?
I think the one that stood out to me most was the first issue.
Yeah.
And the reason that one stood out the most to me is it seems like I was always a big fan of the TV show Smallville,
Yeah.
and I feel like they took that one issue and almost kind of expanded on it for that TV series. Like they looked at this issue and they go, let's tell more of that.
I need to watch that show. I've been thinking about giving it a watch.
And interestingly enough, I think if I may have to look this up. I think Jeff Loeb was one of the writers on that show.
I was just being told about somebody being a writer for that show. I think it was Jeff Johns.
He might have done some of the writing on that as well.
I think I was told Jeff Johns wrote for it from somebody that's just started watching it. That's a big fan.
So yeah, he did some of the screenwriting on Smallville.
Nice.
Let's see who. There were 10 seasons, so they probably had a shit ton of writers. Let's see, yeah. So, yeah, Jeff Loeb started doing some writing on season 2. He did a lot of episodes on season 2. Season 3. Season 4. He did some.
Wow, I didn't know. See, you've given me yet another reason to.
Doesn't look like he did anything in season 5.
See, now you're making me wonder if it's this person, Jeff Loeb, instead of Jeff Johns.
Well, so far I haven't seen any Jeff Johns as far as writing credits go.
No, my message from my friend did Sage from Jeff Johns.
Oh, here we go. Jeff Johns wrote episode 11 of season 8.
So a bit later on.
Episode 11 of season 9.
Okay, sensing a theme here.
Episode 10 was the last season, and episode 18 of season 10. So he wrote 3 seasons, or 3 episodes. Jeff Johns, that is.
Nice.
Loeb wrote quite a few more, it seems.
Wow.
But basically, Smallville is it's about Clark Kent. It's not about Superman.
Matthew brings up a really interesting point, saying what years, because Jeff Loeb was head of Marvel Television during Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Daredevil, on Netflix, and so on back.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I think asking when Jeff Loeb was writing that, since he also did his stuff with Marvel. I assume that would have been just before the show to Marvel.
He wrote it between 2002 and 2005.
Yeah, so okay, a bit before.
Yeah. But yeah, so that TV show was about Clark Kent, not about Superman. But I mean, he's got his powers, and because he's developing his powers. Yeah. But anyway, getting back to Superman for All Seasons, I feel like this book was a huge influence on that show. At least the first issue.
Interesting. I need to watch it. I need to watch it. It's on my longer watch list.
I'm kind of surprised that Blue is never mentioned that you should watch that. I think that's like one of his favorite Superman things.
Interesting. There's a couple big Superman things I haven't watched, and that's one of them. So
yeah,
I'll get to it. I've heard a lot of good things about it, and with all the Superman stuff coming out, I wanna check it out.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of I just don't watch a bunch of stuff. I'm more of a gamer / a reader at the end of the day. I don't set aside a lot of time for myself to watch stuff unless it's like a new Marvel Star Wars thing generally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some other stuff here that I definitely want to watch as well, but yeah. But yeah. Speaking of like new comic book stuff, I need to watch season 2 of Sandman that just came out or started to come out. I think
Watch what?
The new season of the Sandman.
Oh, is that out now?
The first part of it is because on Netflix has been starting to like break up their shows. The first part of it, I think the rest of it comes out in like a week and a half or something like that. Like on the 25th, I want to say. I could be wrong. But yeah. The first bit of it's out though. And that's going to be the last season because we'll just leave it at reasons.
Yeah, let's just leave it at reasons. Yeah.
So, but anyway, back to Superman. One of the big things that stood out to me, and I need to go back and watch. Well, I don't need to go back and watch this or anything, but when I read this or was reading it, I actually messaged you and I was like, oh my gosh, this part feels like a big, it's a complete opposite of what happens in another Superman project.
Mm.
And that's this right here.
I wonder what Superman project you're talking about.
Yeah, I wonder, right?
Yeah.
And there's this big tornado that happens and his family's safe, but instead, he goes to rescue some random dude.
Yeah.
And as Superman should, because that's what Superman does.
Yes.
And so, and this happened, and I'm like, this is literally the complete opposite of what happened in Man of Steel. And I was like, with how well this comic understands Superman, that moment in particular just felt like a big middle finger to this comic or Superman in general, but specifically this comic because I was like, that's literally the complete opposite.
Yeah. So I feel like, man, who was it that told me that? It may have been you. You said something about. Was it you that said? Zach read this book and thought, let's do something different.
No, I said that as a jokingly thing last night. Yes. I was like, Zack Snyder probably read this and he was like, let's not do this.
Yeah, that's right. That's what you said. And I was like, yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff that he read and he was like, yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Like I said, Man of Steel is a good movie, but it's not a great Superman movie to me, and so that's how it is for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Man of Steel was a good movie.
Yeah,
a good movie.
It's a good comic book movie,
not a good Superman movie.
I agree with that sentiment, and that part to me, especially when people,
I know there are people out there that would disagree with me. I can think of a couple or few offhand. But I feel like Zach does not understand the character or doesn't like the character.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say there is a big... Well, I don't want to say this because this is something I've thought about kind of a bit recently, is that Superman's a big character. He's been around for many years.
Since 1938.
I'm not doing the math. That's over 80 years though. So he's been around for several years. And I think though there's this sort of thing where DC wanted to try to just do new stuff with his character. And because of that, though, because, I think it's important. David Cornsweet, a recent interview for the promotion, he brought up a really good point about Man of Steel. And he was like, it's good that they did something new so it's not the same thing over and over to help, for it to be fresh. I may have actually brought this up last week. Now that I think about it, but what was I getting with that? I had a point, and I completely just left me.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with that.
I know I had somewhere I was going with that, but it's something about Man of Steel being different, and it helped. Oh, I remember now. Is that I think though with this character who's been around for so long, it's a big cross-generational character. That really matters to all these different people. And so when you're talking about this character that's gone through a bunch of iterations, and some more recently, with like New 52 and ish and around there, being a bit different, drastically different. You talk about all these different versions of a character where some people fall in love with one version and other people not fall in love with another version. I don't have a problem with people, loving a darker Superman, but it's kind of a thing of just like, I think some people have kind of like lost sight because of liking one version. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with liking a darker version, but kind of also like losing sight of like what Superman really means and stood for, And so I think part of me, when I don't want to I don't want to be one of those people that like when they say they dislike something, they don't understand it. But I do feel like a lot of the credit, or some, I'm not going to say a lot, because there's been some valid criticisms I've read for the new Superman movie. And I'm like, I can definitely understand that. There's some where I'm like, I just don't think you understand the character because of all these different iterations that's happened with him.
Yeah.
Because they really cling on to one iteration that's maybe not necessarily always what he's about. So,
yeah.
But anyway, Superman for all. Oh, let's see what Matthew said here. Yes, Superman saved his dad. I need to make that smaller. Yes, Superman saved his dad. So dumb is that when the film. Yes, right. Yes. We're all in agreement here, at least, that nobody likes that part in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where after rereading this comic, and it just really made me realize that part's freaking stupid. Especially when he goes out of his way to save somebody, random. I mean, he probably knows him because Smallville's a small town, but like, point is, though, still somebody that's not his dad,
Yeah.
And here's actually a thing too I'm gonna bring this up in tomorrow's review as well, probably, because there's a big thing that I really liked about the Superman movie. But one thing that I actually have against both Man of Steel and, dare I say, the original Superman movie is the fact that that they both kill Paul Kent when it's never been a big thing that Paul Kent dies until way later on. And so I really liked having Paul Kent actually being a big factor with when Clark is actually Superman and not being a stepping point to being that, So, but anyways, Superman for all seasons. We're here to talk about that.
I thought we were talking about that.
Yeah. Let's see, but yeah, issue 1 was really good. We got the big a bunch of stuff in Smallville, and then we got issue 2 was a big exploration of his time starting again in Metropolis. We start seeing Lex summon that. I felt like this version of Lex was heavily inspired by Gene Hackman. Like his portrayal. I was reading this and I'm like, this feels like Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor.
A little bit, yeah.
I don't mean that as a bad thing at all. Like, he has a good he played a really good Lex. From all the stuff I've seen, I would have said he's my favorite Lex Luthor. If you would have asked me that a week ago, I will say now that is not my answer anymore. But
even before recent events, he's iconic.
Yeah,
Gene Hackman, very iconic Lex Luthor.
Yeah,
still would have been my second favorite Lex Luthor.
Who's
because
your favorite?
Michael Rosenbaum.
See, because I haven't watched it, and I hear things about that too. I know that's also James Gunn's favorite, which I know played a big inspiration on the movie.
I can see it.
So
I can see it. Yeah,
I need to watch. Another reason for me to watch Smallville. Darn it!
It's 10 seasons. It's going to take some time.
How big are the seasons? Are they like your regular 20 episode seasons as well?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh God! All right. Comic Den is canceled for 3 months as I go watch it. No, I'm joking. But maybe that'd be an interesting sideshow to do somewhere. I don't know if that'd be something that'd be really.
Oh man, don't mention that to Blue.
Oh, I absolutely should. Hold on.
I'm kidding when I say don't mention it. Okay, so here's the breakdown. Season 1, 21 episodes. Okay, the lowest number of episodes for a season is the season number 7 that had 20.
And what's the most?
The most is 23 on season 2.
What's your general network television?
There's most of these, I'd say the mean. Do you understand the word mean?
Yes, okay.
I do. The mean is 22.
That makes sense. Yeah, that tracks. That's whole network television and not the 8 episodes that we're like kind of used to now. Things used to be on for a lot longer. Things are different now.
But yeah, I can imagine that could be. I don't know how many people would be interested in it, but just sitting around talking about Smallville would be interesting, at least for me, and I'm sure Blue would love to get in on that one.
Yeah, I know one of my other friends might be interested in that as well. So we'll discuss that a bit off air. It'd be good reasons for me to maybe try to give it a watch. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. At the very least, it doesn't hurt to just do a few episodes and see how it does.
Yeah.
So, it could definitely be a thing to easily break up like 2 or 3 episodes or something. I don't know if there's like necessarily arcs in it, but I don't think it would be a thing that you'd have to have an episode per episode.
Yeah.
Or an episode per show, but like maybe a handful or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. Well, we'll talk about that later on. But if you'd be interested in us to talk about Smallville, let me know. I think it'd be something interesting to delve into. So, what else with this? There's, my mind tonight has been completely sidetracked by everything else with Superman, other than
fair, because it's such. So look, folks. Here's the thing. You got to understand that we have been waiting on this movie for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
They announced this movie in January of 2023. So we've just been in intense anticipation of this movie for so long. It's finally come out. And it has, as you can see from what I have been reading this week and what we have been talking about these last couple of weeks, it's kind of consumed us.
Yeah.
So, the big takeaway from this episode is that the writing is great.
Jeff Loeb's a great writer. He's truly one of the best.
A great writer.
His first big gig, or his first gig at DC that we should talk about sometime, is Volume 2, like the second iteration of Challengers of the Unknown.
I did know that.
We should talk about that sometime.
Strangely enough, yeah, I'd be down to talk about Challengers of the Unknown. The big
takeaway, I'd like to read that one because it's Jeff Loeb. But yeah, go on.
Takeaway: he's a great writer. That's obvious. He understands the character. If you if you're new to the Superman mythos, this is a good book. If you don't care about, there's not really much origin in it. There's a little,
the first issue I would, all right. Well, first one, it may be a little.
There's some origin. It doesn't go real deep. You don't ever see.
Yeah.
Do you see Krypton? No, I don't remember.
No,
you don't see Krypton. So
I don't even think Krypton's strictly referenced at all either.
So if you want to get a good idea of what the character Superman is about, like his essence, his core, this is a great place to start.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're watching this and you've never read the book, just go read it. It's a great
an
book.
offer that DC has going on till I think it's either the end of this month or next month is you can actually get 52% off of your first month of a regular tier subscription to DC Universe. So last week when I realized I actually didn't own Secret Origin like I thought I did, I ended up taking advantage of that just to get half price regular sub, because at that point it's like what? Not even $5 to do that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that'll be like my way of saying I guess, so I can actually read it.
Right.
But anyway, point is though, take advantage of that. There's a bunch of great old Superman stories on there. Definitely read this. Go read Kingdom Come. I think also got to read it also Superman.
Yeah, go read. Maybe. Okay, go read. Go read Up in the Sky.
Yes, that's what I'll go do.
So here's the thing. When you hear the writer, like when I first heard about that book, and a friend of mine told me about that book, I was like, because he told me who wrote it, and I was like,
yeah,
I don't know. That doesn't scream Superman to me.
A person's been up in flames recently if you look up his name on the internet. But anyway.
Oh, really? No, but okay. So, I mean, we'll say it because it's not that hard to find on the internet. It's Tom King. Tom King wrote Up in the Sky. And when you think Superman, Tom King is not the person you think of.
That's very true.
But that being said, it is another perfect example of Superman at his core.
I will have to
just that good, and it's like, wow, Tom King wrote this. What the hell, man? And Tom King's not a bad writer. I'm not saying that, folks. I'm just saying he does not strike me.
Yeah, no, I that's one of the reasons.
Superman
I was literally just reading somebody talking about the story. I want to say yesterday, like just some tweet about it, and I saw it was by Tom King. I was like, I was just very surprised by it, and so
yeah. No, when I first read it, I was pretty surprised too, because I was like, Tom King wrote this. Interesting.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, because he had a pretty decent sized run of Batman.
I need to read. So they started doing a new printing of that, where it's like collecting like these little bigger editions of like 3 or 4 arcs within one trade, and so I got the first one. I don't know if or when the second one's coming out.
But here's the other funny thing about Tom King. There is a character, and we're not spoiling anything, but Spencer will know who I'm talking about. There is a character that shows up at the end of the Superman movie.
Ah, yes.
And that character is going to get their own movie, and the book upon which that movie is based is written by Tom King.
This is true. Very true. We'll definitely I'll definitely be covering that one a bit closer to when that comes out.
Oh, next year we're definitely going to have to cover that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am so pumped for that movie.
I like that little tease, but we're gonna leave that there about the movie.
Let's just leave that there,
Yeah, we'll just leave that there. All spoilers tomorrow on the Dingus Den. Be sure to go check it out. I felt like
it was Batmite. No, I'm kidding.
Batmite. See, that's what we need. See, somebody brought up an interesting idea that if they ever did, what's that Superman's villain name that I can't freaking say the name to?
Mr. Mxyzptlk?
Yeah, that one. It was like, what if they did it like Roger Rabbit style, where he's all 2D?
See, and I had an idea. Like, if they brought Mr. Mxyzptlk into...
Is that actually how you say his name?
Mr. Mxyzptlk, yeah. If you bring him into this universe, I think he should be voiced by Jack Black.
And then who would voice Batmite?
Jim Carrey.
Oh my god.
No, Batmite should be voiced by... Oh man, who does his voice? Hold on.
Wait,
he does a voice in another movie. Hang on.
Okay. While you're finding that, I would like to pitch that James Gunn's World Finest movie with Batman and Superman, he goes up against Batmite and Mitchell, however the crap you say his name, together. I think that would be a fantastic World's Finest movie.
Ben Schwartz.
Oh, I'm down with it.
Yeah, Ben Schwartz should do the voice of Batmite.
Oh my god. We just came up with James Gunn's World's Finest movie right there.
James Gunn, if you're watching this, you need to
Oh my god.
Call Jack Black's agent, call Ben Schwartz's agent. Get on the writing, the writing team going. We need to see Mr. Mxyzptlk and Batmite team up against Superman.
And Batman.
And Batman, yeah.
World's Finest movie right there. We just came up with the best idea for one.
There you go.
No idea will be better than that. It's what the DCU needs now.
Yeah. So
oh my god,
you've got it on this specific page here. I want to bring something up about this page.
Oh yes, I did.
Do you think does this look like something that the movie took inspiration from?
See, this is one of the things I think actually the movie did take inspiration for was the what are they called? Are they predator suits or something like that? They have a name.
Oh, in the movie they're called Raptors.
I was completely off, but raptor suits, yes. I mean, raptors are predators, I guess, Anyway, yeah, raptor suits. That's it. Yeah, no, that's definitely when I saw these. I'm like, I think that's that. I mean, these are drones and not people. I think there is actual people in the movie, but yeah, like it definitely felt like a thing when I read this. I was like, this is a thing pulled from that, that James Gunn pulled, and
yeah.
Wasn't in either of the other two big stories that I mentioned earlier that I think had heavy inspiration on the movie.
Yeah, I definitely think that James Gunn took inspiration from multiple sources.
There was a lot. He did a lot of inspiration from different places, and so I will be mentioning some of those a bit more in depth tomorrow's stream. So be sure to go check that out. My big panel review of Superman. By James Gunn. So we'll see how that goes. We're like I said, we're going to be getting deep into it, and definitely going to be some disagreements. So we'll see what happens. I think it'll make for a good show, as we'll have people from both sides talking about it. So we'll see. Yeah.
So go read this. It's definitely worth the read. And then of course be back next week. Because we will be talking about, we will be gearing up for the next comic book movie, Fantastic Four.
Yes.
And we will be kicking that off by talking about the Galactus trilogy.
Yeah, that's like, talk about an actual, I mean, this is a must read, but like, talk about a must read. Like, I'm trying to think if I'd actually say this or not, or if this would actually be true for me. If there is a list of you can only read 5 Marvel comics, this would be the arc we're going to talk about next week would probably be on that list for me. If you could only read 5.
Wow.
If not on that list, it's a very, very high contender. And so it's big. It's one of those things that when I first read it, I was like, I don't think so. But then when you like think back on it, and after I read it, it's a really big influential story. And so yeah, it's like the one cosmic story I'd actually probably put on that list of you only read 5. Well, maybe I'd try to sneak in something else of a top 5 is like my top 5 of like must reads. But
Yeah.
you know, it's a huge story though. It is quite big for its time, and like it's a very highly regarded Marvel story as well. So yeah, well, we'll be delving into it, which is very exciting, as it's a very iconic issue, or set of issues, we should say.
Yeah.
The introduction of Galactus, the introduction of Silver Surfer. There's so much stuff in it.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, wow. So, but yeah, be sure to tune in next week for the Galactus trilogy.
Yoo-hoo.
As we prepare for Fantastic Four or whatever. So,
and go see Superman if you haven't already.
Go watch Superman. See, that's the one thing too. Is don't want to really get into this. Go watch Superman. I decided I don't want to actually
go
watch Superman. So
just go watch Superman.
Go watch Superman.
And if you have already watched it, go watch Superman.
Yes. I am going to at least go see it one more time. So, because it's that good of a movie. So, thank you, Matthew, for sticking around. And yeah, see everybody next week. What are you doing this week on Rebel Nerd Radio? Do you know? Or not? Or
we are actually talking about the Clone Wars movie.
Interesting. Last week, I should actually rewatch your all's last week episode, as you all talked about my favorite Clone Wars arc. So,
yeah,
that is such a good arc that you all talked about last week. So, but yes, yeah. So be sure to turn to Rebel Nerd Radio and tune in for all the other exciting Dingus Den streams happening this week. Until next time, we'll see you all, or we will see you all next week. Next time here on the Dingus Den.